What's your darkest secret? I was a burglar who hid everything from homes to buildings protected by armed guards. I grew up a middle-class kid. I worked over 40 hours a week, sometimes manual labor, sometimes computer stuff, while in high school and generally made double minimum wage. I never really wanted for much since I worked so much and was paid well. When I went to college, my cash flow dropped significantly. During holiday breaks, I never traveled to see family for reasons I'd rather not cover. This meant I was left alone in a college town that was nearly empty. It started with burglarizing apartments that I could walk to from my place. Robbery is when another person is involved, but burglary is when the building is empty. Entire apartment complexes were empty because all the college kids had gone home. Many of them simply didn't lock their doors or left windows open. Being agile and physically fit, even second-story windows were an option. This quickly escalated to businesses. Probably the most risky was a place where the guards were armed and you had to have a security badge to get on the property. They even responded to a silent alarm that I wasn't able to disable, but my entry was well hidden, so they didn't believe anyone was in the building. They searched for a while, then radioed their dispatch that it was a false alarm. I've outrun cops on foot 3 or 4 times. I've outrun them in cars a few times. I've had to spend hours hiding in the woods waiting for them to leave before I could get out of Dodge. I know how to completely disable an alarm system in a matter of seconds, can open sliding doors with a coat hanger, jimmy doors, and run police scanners. All of this was happening during the same time that eBay was spinning up. I was able to unload every single item I didn't keep on eBay. If your stuff is stolen, use Google Alerts to monitor sites like Craigslist and eBay. It has been over 10 years since my last time. I've legally made over 6 figures for 4 or 5 years now, have a family and a career. However, there's not a house or business I've visited that I haven't taken note of the security, entry, and exit points, and the location of high-value items. I regret every single thing I stole, and I don't say that lightly, as I regret almost nothing in my life. I wish I could find the people I harmed and write them checks out of my savings to replace the stuff I stole. A few words to those who want to stop people like me. Don't buy an alarm that uses a telephone line. Some systems use cellular service. This is what you want. Also, make sure the alarm box or brain and siren aren't accessible to me. Put them in a closet that locks or in the attic. Most installers put them as close to the front door as possible, usually a coat closet. All it takes is me cutting the phone line, entering the house and ripping the siren off the wall, and your alarm system is useless. If you have a security camera system, have it push the video to a remote location. If it's your business, have a server in your house that your business cameras push video to. If the video or security computer is on site, I'll be taking that with me, even if it's bolted down. If you hire a contractor, say, a guy to come fix your computer, pick everything up. Don't leave anything out for me to see. If you can, limit my travel in your house. I'm sure some of you can relate, but here it goes anyway. I hate my mother. She thinks she is the most perfect human being on the planet, and that everyone else is an idiot. She constantly berates me and my twin sisters for everything. How fat we are, how no one will ever love us, how we're too shy. It has been constant since I was about 8 years old. Case in point. When I was 13 I was still a pretty chubby kid. I still kind of am, but nowhere near what I was back then. I decided that I was the only one that could do anything about it, so I started lifting weights to this exercise tape that we had. About a week in, she comes into my room pissed off because she lost something and thought that it might be in my room while I was working out. After a few minutes she looks up, looks me dead in the eye and says, "I don't know why you bother, you're always going to be fat." I didn't attempt to even exercise again until I was 15. It completely destroyed me. Imagine snide comments like this to every single family member every day, even my father. She once told him that she works harder than he ever did. He's a superintendent for a construction company, making about $100K a year, working about 60 hours a week. She works in an office making about $20K a year and works 36. The only person that escapes her wrath is the baby of the family, because she is just like her and they argue and scream at each other all the time. She got caught trespassing on property and was sentenced to parole and community service. Not a single punishment came from my parents because my mom wouldn't allow it. A week ago she spent about $900 on school clothes for her. One year when I was 19, I didn't get anything for Christmas but some razors and bathroom stuff because she spent what was left of her Christmas budget on her, $600 on Hot Topic stuff. I talked to my dad about it, how she does all this messed up stuff. Basically he said that he only sticks around because he has kids and he's not going to abandon us. After you all move out, I don't know what will happen. We all tend to avoid her and I talk to her once a week on the phone, that's about it. I'm always polite and congenial, but I never bring up anything that I'm doing with my life beyond work and school. What really sucks is she wasn't always this critical and negative when I was little, so seeing two sides of a person, especially your mother, is weird and depressing. I was relieved when both my parents died, but for totally different reasons. My dad was an alcoholic jerk with a 3-second fuse on his temper. He believed a lot in the virtues of corporal punishment. He had a major stroke, and my sister and I were tasked with making the decision. Mom, on the other hand, was awesome. She became a minister just for prison ministry. She was posthumously honored with a Human Rights Award. Unfortunately, she got lung cancer 25 years after she quit smoking. The treatment ultimately took her life. It was likely the brain lesions. The cancer had metastasized to 6 other places. Her doctor said the radiation to remove them likely destroyed too much tissue in whatever region, I forget, handles blood pressure, and it was downhill from there. She literally never complained and took everything in stride. She wasn't in pain, but she was incredibly weak. I just didn't want her to linger. We had tried everything that was safe, but she was 70 and didn't want to go through hell and back. I broke up with my ex because she has severe anxiety and OCD issues. At first, it was about learning how to tiptoe around these problems, but it gradually grew more and more frustrating to deal with. She worried about situations in her head that would never occur, like someone dying, getting hurt, or getting sick, and she needed constant reassurance. That's how she approached it. She'd ask me questions like, "Do you love me? Am I okay? Does this look infected?" Not just once, but the same question 5 times within a few minutes, and she'd get mad and be passive-aggressive when I stopped answering her after the 3rd or 4th time. I couldn't even have a conversation with her about her day without having to reassure her the house wasn't going to fall down. Then came anything she deemed unclean. If I happened to touch it, she'd make me wash my hands. Spending the day with her, I'd probably have to wash my hands a dozen times. It got to a point where I just turned the water on and stood there if she wasn't looking. It was the worst feeling putting my arm around her, and the first thing she'd say was, "Are your hands clean?" As a result, I grew distant from her and spent more time in front of my computer than I did with her. The tipping point came when I suggested she seek help, like therapy for her issues. She called me a jerk for suggesting such a thing. I lost all love for her at that point. I'm now with a girl who has none of these issues. She's very easygoing and very easy to please, so there's no more tiptoeing around for me. I see my ex on social media with a new guy and my only thought is, she's your problem now. I only hope he has the patience to deal with her issues, or she took a hint and got the help she needed. I took my grandmother's life. It was euthanasia, not a spiteful act. I was fond of her when she was well, and no, I could never be convicted. No one would believe that words could be a weapon. She had had 2 strokes before. She was still functioning but not all there at times. Then she had a rapid series of strokes. She actually died but the doctors revived her. Her mind was mostly destroyed. She didn't recognize her husband or her children. The doctors said she had the mental ability of a 5-year-old. She couldn't understand anything said to her and could only respond yes or no in response to facial expressions or gestures. The problem was that her fate was taken from her family by a stranger. She had signed a power of attorney to her husband after her first stroke. He signed a power of attorney to his son. We barely knew him. He put her in a very expensive nursing home and wouldn't sign a do not resuscitate order because of his religion. So the home would keep her alive indefinitely, nearly brain dead, at $20,000 a week, which was being paid out of her bank account, not her husband's. My family was powerless to object because of the power of attorney. In the first place, no one in my family, including my late grandfather, would approve of artificially sustaining life when there was no hope of recovery. Secondly, my grandfather's money was meant to provide for his family, not make an overpriced private facility rich. It was in his will and in my grandmother's. It wasn't for me, it was for my nieces. Their family had had a lot of hard blows and they really needed it. When I visited her with family, she understood nothing going on around her and didn't focus on anyone unless you grabbed her hand and waved your hand in front of her face. She understood nothing said to her. Then a thought occurred to me. The doctors said she had the mental state of a 5-year-old. My grandmother was an immigrant. When she was 5 she didn't speak English. When no one was near, I softly spoke a few words in her native language. She focused on me immediately. She hadn't lost the power of speech. She had forgotten how to speak English. Still, even though she recognized the words, she had little comprehension. I didn't tell anyone what I had discovered. A few days later I called the nursing home and asked to speak to my grandmother. They tried to explain that she couldn't talk, but I said no, that's alright, she understands me when I talk to her. I spoke to her the last time I visited. When they put her on the phone, I spoke in her native language. I said I was her family. I told her to stop eating. I told her the food was bad and she shouldn't eat. She said no at first, but I spoke very sternly. Finally, I asked her if she understood. I understand, she replied. The first actual sentence she had spoken since her stroke. She passed away a month later. The doctors said she had fallen ill and couldn't eat. They never figured out why. In the end, there was no money left in her account anyway. The son-in-law had been using it to pay his father's household bills as well. Still, I have no regrets. I loved her once and I didn't believe she should be left like that. About 12 years ago, I was jumped horribly by a bunch of coke heads. About 6 years ago, 2 of them came into a popular restaurant while I was closing the kitchen down by myself. They didn't notice me, but I noticed them. They proceeded to drink a few beers each, talk to my boss as he bartended, and take a couple of shots. I could see from the windows on the kitchen doors. Then they messed up and ordered food. I proceeded to make their food, 1 Philly cheesesteak and 1 chicken Caesar wrap. After I was done, I took a raw chicken breast I had pulled out when they got there and slathered it all over their food, getting it as saturated with raw chicken goodness as I could. About an hour later they went to leave, and I went out the back door to see which car they got in. I promptly called the non-emergency number to the nearby police department and told them that some guys had had multiple drinks, were leaving the bar, had run over the curb, and took off at a high rate of speed, giving them the license plate number and car description. To this day, I really hope they were sitting in jail when that raw chicken took effect. I'm the reason my cousin is mentally handicapped. We are the same age, and when we were 7 our grandpa bought dirt bikes for us. Well, we decided to make our own trail in the woods. It took the entire summer. I purposely put a tree branch at roughly head level, just so he could duck under it and it would look awesome. The branch was heavy, but I was able to set it conveniently between 2 trees. He was braver than me, so he went first. Being dumb kids, we didn't wear helmets. I yelled for him to duck, but he didn't. He hit his head on the branch, got knocked backward, and hit his head again straight into the ground. I told everyone it was an accident. Grandpa sold the dirt bikes. I didn't see my cousin a whole lot after that. That was nearly 25 years ago. I see him every Christmas, and it's always the same. He's in a wheelchair, being spoon-fed by his mom. He can't speak. He likes to draw funny shapes. He most likely doesn't remember the incident, and I don't know if he remembers me, but that's what haunts me. On the day of our 10-year wedding anniversary, I found out my wife had been talking to a guy online, trading pictures, and talking about possibly leaving me for about a month and a half. I sort of knew the guy through the guild my wife and I were in, World of Warcraft. The night before, when I got home from work, she was telling me some jokes he had told her, and I found it strange that she found them as funny as she did. I felt like it wasn't something she would normally laugh at. So while we were on the couch watching TV, I logged into her Discord account and the first thing I saw was, "I'd send you intimate pictures, but I'm being supervised." I immediately excused myself and went to bed. I didn't know what to think, so I just shut down. Upon waking up in the morning, I googled a script that would download their chat history from Discord, and I read it all. My heart broke when I read, "I'm so angry at my husband when he's not with me, but I'm fine when he's here." My heart shattered the first time I saw her say, "I love you," in the chat logs. It shattered again when I thought being intimate with my husband would help, but it hasn't. I haven't cried well, I can't even remember the last time I cried, but I cried 3 times while reading the logs. It was a sick train ride of deep sadness, despair, and anger seeing the progression of this happening. Getting further into the logs I saw them arguing, resolving said arguments, and then arguing again. At one point she exclaimed to him she doesn't know why she's doing this and that she really loves me but he's like her kryptonite and she can't help it. I could see both of them pushing each other away, yet still trading pictures every so often. By the end of the logs, it appeared to me that they were just satisfying each other's needs online, I guess. It seemed like any relationship had run its course and they were just mechanically doing this. I confronted her. I said, "Happy anniversary. Do we have another year?" I told her I found the logs and read them. She explained how it happened, that we did have another year, that she didn't know how to end it once she realized what she was doing, that she didn't really cheat on me, and that she would immediately block him on everything. I was pretty catatonic for almost a week. It's about 6 weeks later now. We seem to be doing fine now, I think. The trust is still broken though, and I still find myself wanting to log into all her accounts to check on things if she leaves her phone out or computer on. I am doing mostly okay at this point, though sometimes I'll hear or see something that reminds me of everything and I'll have an attack of depression, I guess. It's hard to explain. I haven't talked to anyone about this because I still love her and I don't want my family and friends to hate her. Now, I feel like I should note why she was angry with me, since I mentioned it but didn't really explain. She was angry because she felt like I wasn't doing enough around the house. She talked to me about that while she was already talking to him. I felt like I was doing plenty and she just wasn't recognizing it. However, I still took her complaints seriously. So I started writing down everything I did around the house in a sort of daily journal. From picking up trash, cleaning up cat puke, and taking care of the little one, to picking up her old coffee mugs and used Splenda packets. I'm still doing this, because I realized that while I was doing things around the house before I started the documentation, it was hard to say how much I was actually doing because most of it seems inconsequential by itself and I would forget what I had done, making it hard to say I wasn't just being lazy. When tracking it, though, it's much easier to remember and it all added together is actually a lot that I do. Plus, it's just satisfying to see the pages fill up from margin to margin with all of that stuff. My wife cheated on me with a professional soccer player. She claims to not have been intimate with him, but I don't know if I can believe her. Before I found out by looking at her phone. She didn't tell me, we were having arguments and just not getting along. One night, I finally had enough and approached her to discuss what was happening to us. It was then that she told me that she didn't know if she loved me anymore. 2 weeks later, I found intimate pictures of her sent to him, texts between them that discussed getting together to hook up, and the most hurtful things a wife could say about her husband. At this point, I understood why she was feeling detached from me. All her emotional needs were being met by this other man. We have 3 amazing kids. A son and 2 daughters, ages 10, 9, and 7. They are such good kids. I am dumbfounded that my wife would do this. We have been together for 20 years and married for 14. I think back to when she loved me and we were so happy. Life has been challenging for us but not any different or more difficult than for most couples. I am so in love with her. She is an amazing mom, extremely beautiful to me, and has a very attractive, bubbly personality that everyone loves. I am so proud that she is my wife. At least I was. Fast forward to now, it's been roughly 7 to 8 months, and she has yet to show any remorse or show me any affection. I'm so lonely, sad, afraid, and ashamed. I am very ashamed to say that I have thought about ending my life. That way she would be rid of me and she could be happy. Of course, I could never do that to my kids. They would be so hurt and confused. We have been and still are going to counseling. She did end the relationship with the other man the day after I found out. She did say she loves me but is not romantically in love with me. Her actions are just not showing me much. I haven't told a soul except the counselor. Close friends of mine always ask me what is wrong. My brothers and parents do the same. I don't want them to think that my wife is anything but a good wife and lover. Pushing through. Hopefully, this has a good ending. I own a 5-foot-tall love doll while living with my 2 grandmas and my mom. It was interesting ordering the doll and getting this big box weighing 80 pounds into the house without anyone noticing. I sat outside waiting for UPS to arrive just so the doorbell wasn't rung. I had to go through the front door, through the hallway, and then into my room. Somehow, I did it without anyone seeing. After owning her for about a week, it's a real pain trying to keep her clean with people around, so strategizing cleanup times in the bathroom is a chore. One time, I had her in the bathtub to clean her and took a shower at the same time so no one would question it. Then I opened the bathroom door to see my grandma waiting to use it. I just had to pray she didn't open the shower curtains while doing her business, and she didn't. A few months went by, and some family needed to move in. I now had to share my room with my brother and his girlfriend temporarily. I hid the doll in a big enough box inside my closet. No one knows I have this life-size doll, and I would rather keep it that way. My fiancé is the only person I actually enjoy being around. I don't really say that out loud because it puts unfair pressure on her and exposes my antisocial tendencies. I wasn't always this way. It kind of happened over the past 6 or 7 years after a deep depression and struggle with drugs. I've been happy and drug-free for several years, but I haven't been the same. When I make myself hang out with friends, I generally sit there thinking about how long I should stay before I can duck out and go home without looking like a jerk. It's hard for me to have conversations with people because I just think things like, when are they going to leave me alone? Or, when can I leave? I'm pretty good at hiding it and have several people who consider me to be their friends, but I secretly get no enjoyment out of those relationships. I'm not sure why my fiancée is different, but it makes me very afraid of losing her. I'm almost positive I won't find anyone else that I will be able to love like I do her. There have been a few months here and there in the past where we split up and I went out on dates with several other women. Some of them were very pretty and very nice, but I absolutely hated the entire process and never followed through on subsequent dates. I wish I could change that about myself, but I don't know how. I am a leader at my church, volunteer, not paid or making a career of it. I used to teach Sunday school, and still occasionally fill in if someone is sick. I went to a Christian college for a bit. I minored in New Testament Greek, married a Christian girl, and had kids who are growing up in our church. I can no longer bring myself to honestly believe in God. I wish I could, but it just doesn't make any sense. I only maintain the illusion of keeping the faith because it would cause a lot of heartbreak to people who I really care about if they knew. It's like I lost a friend who I had for 34 years, who I was super close to, who was always there for me, who knew me better than anyone else. But I can't mourn this loss, because my family and close friends still believe this friend is alive, and if I tell them I don't believe, they'll feel like they lost me. Everyone thinks I have my life together, but in reality, it's a horrible mess and I've gotten dangerously good at being manipulative and lying in order to get what I want after a rough childhood. I'm always keeping my emotions in check in order to portray myself however best fits the situation, and prey on the emotions of others. I can't tell the truth anymore without deconstructing a 10+ year cumulative lie. Hell, I find myself lying over trivial things just to see how far I can go with it and still get away with it. Up until the last few months, it was all subconscious, but now that I notice it, I'm concerned, not worried, if that makes sense, how this will affect any future relationships and any future kids since I can't really come clean at this point. I'm 90% sure I have sociopathic if not psychopathic tendencies, and the negative stigma in that alone keeps me up at night in case someone finds out. The worst part is this doesn't worry me, even though logically I can deduce it should. In fact, I'm in love with the thrill of keeping this con going even though I know it will end up being extremely destructive. Thank God for anonymity. I'd never be able to say any of this in person. I want to get a divorce from my mentally ill husband but never will. It's complicated. When I first met my husband, I was in a very dark place and considering ending my life. He never gave up on me, and after about a year, I found joy in life again. I found joy with him. Then, after many years together and shortly after we got married, his descent into mental illness started. The first point is his behavior. It's dark and frankly scary at times. I'm not afraid he will hurt me, but he is not the man I fell in love with and married. He's been in therapy for years, and at best, it somewhat stabilizes him, but it takes all his energy just to get by. He has no energy for us anymore. Normally, he is just dismissive of me at best, and at worst, he spends all of his time worrying about things nobody should worry about and can't function outside of the home. Which is my second point. Money. If it weren't for me, he would probably be homeless. His dad died a few years ago, and his mom scrapes by with barely enough money to avoid the street herself. All of his siblings struggle the same, and he has no real friends outside of me. I do hope that someday we will find the treatment that works, what gives him a chance to be halfway functional like he used to be, but after so many false starts, I am resigned to the fact I will never have kids with him. It's hard enough to keep him going. I couldn't do it with a kid, and that our best days may be squarely behind us. Sometimes my only coping mechanism/escape is the internet.